Hello there everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Brickley Hedgehog. Thanks for tuning in for another weekly update on news and information about DCS World, the first big newsletter of 2021 from Eagle Dynamics, and it is a big one. We have a very broad roadmap of what they hope to achieve in 2021. Obviously the caveat will be the dates and things like that are not set in concrete. These are all very broad, but I think you're going to be pleased with some of the news and information that we have here. So bear with me, stick around, grab your coffee like I have right now, or your beer, which I'm going to grab that a little bit later. Let's talk about the first nitty-gritty piece of information, which is an update to the core engine. Now they're saying here that they're going to migrate DCS World straight into version 2.7. Now while it was planned to release 2.6 in the very beginning of the year, they have so many additional changes that are in the works that they've decided to move it directly to 2.7. But prior to this move, they have one remaining update to version 2.5 that will include many improvements to the F/A-18C Hornet. No surprise there, they've been working on the Hornet for a couple of years now. It is very close. So this is exciting. What are they saying here about the Hornet? Well, finalizing this module is one of their top priorities, and it is a fantastic module, there's no question about that. It's right up there, I think, with the work that they've achieved on the tank color or the A10C, but there's still a few things to go yet. Now, they're hoping to move it out of early access by the end of the first quarter in January. They're going to be adding new functions for expendable countermeasures, electronic attack, or EA, radar jamming effects, the previously mentioned CEA and ground moving target that we saw WAG's showcase earlier this week, but we were all completely distracted by the clouds, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. So yes, the GMT radar modes, the designated target sharing or TXTSG, the fuel page bit or built-in test, BDU-45 and BDU-45B practice bombs. And following those items, principal items remain, including the FLIR or targeting pod and the AGM-88C harm pre-briefed mode, AGM-84K SLAM ER coupled CPL auto modes. And then once it's out of early access, the Hornet will continue, of course, to receive support for some new weapons, the AIM-7P, ACLS mode, wide ACM mode, and the data transfer cartridge functions, which I know some of you have talked about too, wanting those things in the game as well. So quite a lot of attention to detail. It'll be exciting to get this aircraft out of early access by the end of quarter one here, so stand by for that. Of course, they will be maintaining and polishing the module on an ongoing basis. Next, we move to the Viper, of course, which many of you have asked and begged for more work to be done on and are excited for it to also be out of early access, but I think we've got a wee ways to go yet based on how much work was done on the Hornet. Now, once the Hornet is out of early access, they're saying here that some of the developers that were allocated to that team will move over to the Viper team in order to enhance the capabilities that they have. So redistribution of work. Now, based on customer feedback, their highest priorities includes completing air-to-air radar modes and functions, additional AGM-88C harm modes, GPS INS guided weapons, expanded defensive systems, air-to-surface radar modes, mark points, additional ICP and multifunction display options, and of course new weapon delivery modes, and more. So stay tuned for that. It's a cool mod. But it's, and I mean here, I'm saying short for module, it's not a mod, but like the Hornet, it's a complicated aircraft. It's got a lot of intricate systems, weapon systems, sensor systems, etc. So it has a wee ways to go yet, and hopefully they can make good progress this year with that, bearing in mind that the resources will free up from the Hornet. And of course the lessons learned, as they've said in the past, have been beneficial for their work on the Hornet, so that's cool. Now the tank killer here, the AC-10C II, the HOG is very nearly complete, but they plan to deliver some additional features in 2021. This include the ARC 210 radio,
updates to the tactical awareness display, changes to optically guided Maverick slewing, and the long version of the ECM pod, in this case the ALQ 184. The SuperCarrier. Now, there wasn't a whole lot of extra work done on the SuperCarrier last year. It was talked about when it was released that eventually they intend to include things like a ready room in the air boss station, hangar deck, so on and so forth. Those things are being worked on or have been worked on in terms of where they're putting their focus. And other tasks for 2021 include plane directors to marshal aircraft to the catapults. I know people had talked about that, and initially it wasn't scheduled to be something, but apparently they have considered that, and that's going to be a feature of the SuperCarrier, which is really cool. So those marshals will be able to guide us to and off the landing area. The Burble deck crew light ones for night operations, so that's going to be really neat, and unique radio channels for different controllers and manual LSO control. Very, very cool. They've done a lot of work in that particular module, and I think those extra things are just going to add to the realism of naval ops, which I think are fantastic in the game. Really worth having if you are interested in naval ops, or if you're kicking around a module to buy. You cannot go wrong with the F-18, the SuperCarrier, and the Persian Gulf map, if that's something that you're interested in expanding, or if you have a combination of those things and you haven't picked them all up yet. Stormbirds also recommended this. The Stormbirds blog talked about the F-18 probably being one of the better modules to get your teeth into if you don't own a full fidelity module, in conjunction with those maps that I mentioned, or the map that I mentioned, and the other module, which would be the SuperCarrier. Remember, it is a special separate module. If you're unfamiliar, yeah, very, very cool. Okay, new aircraft. This little aircraft is absolutely gorgeous. It is a World War II bird. It is the Mosquito fighter bomber Mark 6, a beautiful British-designed aircraft featuring wonderful Merlin engines. And we got snippets of it flying through the new volumetric clouds, which really was tantalizing. Now, I had talked last year that we were expecting it possibly pre-Christmas. That didn't happen, of course, so sadly, and I expect this is because of a lot of other changes that are going on with regards to the core engine and things, and also with that 2.7 update that we talked about before, this will not be released until the end of the first quarter of 2021. Hopefully that stays true to fashion, but yeah, not quite as early as I was hoping. It's going to be their first multi-engine, multi-crew World War II aircraft, and it will mark an important capability for future projects. In other words, what they're saying is the work that they have put into this is going to help them with other multi-crew aircraft, which leads us on to the Hind, or the Hind, depending on how you say it. This is the Mi-24P. Now, it's named the Hind by NATO. The Russian attack helicopter is a deadly player on the battlefield, with an array of anti-tank guided missiles, and of course that lethal twin-barrel 30mm cannon, unguided rockets, and more, featuring cooperative multiplayer in the front and back seat. The product will offer an even higher level of detail and accuracy than the Mi-8 MTV2, with the ability to act as a troop and cargo transport as well. The Mi-24P will add an all-new dimension to attack helicopter operations in DCS world. The Mi-24 is planned for release in the second quarter of 2021. Okay, different to what I said last year, where it was talked about being quarter one. They've updated now. They're saying quarter two, 2021. Unfortunately, so stay tuned for that. We've got things to look forward to. Sadly, they can never come soon enough, but stay tuned. All right, the big one, the Apache, or the correct term here, what we're talking about is the AH-64D. Now, this is, according to Eagle Dynamics, the biggest new aircraft project for 2021. So they've been sort of skunk working this a little bit. The 64D will be the most accurate and detailed simulation of this iconic American attack helicopter. Like the Mi-24P, it will feature front and back seat operations in single-player and multiplayer environments. based on a 2002 Block 2 version, so it will be an older version, which we suspected, which we were aware of for a variety of reasons. The AH-64D will be armed with Hellfire anti-tank guided missiles, unguided rockets, and a head-tracking 30mm cannon. The early access AH-64D is planned for release in the third quarter of 2021 and will be available for pre-sales as of February 21 with a 30% discount. So they're getting you to sign up and fork over your cash, but it won't be ready until later in the year. Now, here's a problem. A little bit of sad news. We talked last year about the KA-50 Blackshark III variant. Remember, right now it's a 2 variant similar to the Warthog. There was plans afoot to bring us new weapons. They've run afoul of information gathering laws from the Russian Federation, which prohibits such things, and they're now having to reconsider the plans that they had to add the new systems to the KA-50. They are continuing to make the updated cockpit freely available, as well as a highly detailed updated external model. So no changes to that, fortunately, but it does mean a little bit of a kick in the teeth, I guess. Comrade Putin is going to have to change his laws so that DCS players can get the weapons they want on these Russian attack helicopters, and indeed a lot of Russian aircraft. So I'm sure Putin's listening to me fervently, but comrade, there's a lot of people out there that would love to get their hands on those Red 4 aircraft and helicopters to bring a true representation of worldwide, available aircraft to this game. But yeah, all right, little tongue-in-cheek there, but we're not going to get it, unfortunately. But it would be nice, and sadly, unless the politics changes or something is no longer super duper top secret or governed by some other military embargo, we're just not able to get all of the things that we want, and that is really what's holding up the Red 4 aircraft, and a few NATO aircraft as well, for that matter, just based on secrecy, copyright laws and all that kind of jazz. A combination of all those bits and pieces sometimes means that we don't get exactly what we want. Modern air combat, moving to a different theme here. Despite the lack of updates on this project, it's still very much alive, and we are making continued progress. Much of the work remains on the new gameplay modes, updating the 3D models and cockpits of the Mac aircraft, creating a new input manager or wizard, and they've continued work on a new graphical user interface. They are shooting for third quarter for 2021 release, but the latest will be quarter 4, so stand by. Let's hope that comes to fruition as well. Now, maps. They're continuing to address bugs and map improvements to Persian Gulf, Caucasus, and the Nevada maps, of course. Most of our map work, though, is focused on the Channel map and upcoming free Mariana Islands map. That's right, free. The Channel, they are continuing to expand this map with additional airfields, including the famous Biggin Hill, RAF, and East Church airfields in England. 2 new advanced landing group airstrips and numerous new landmarks are also planned as part of that to add to a final release version of the Channel map in the first quarter of 2021. So that's exciting. Now, the Mariana Islands, as I said, it's a free map. We're looking second quarter of 2021, and this will be the first modern day depiction, and it will include Anderson Air Force Base and several other airfields along the island chain, which we talked about. If you combine it with the China Assets Pack, we should see some interesting single-player and multiplayer possibilities, according to Eagle Dynamics. And it's still planned as a free map, and it will later serve as the foundation for their first World War II Pacific Theater map. So that's cool. So I expect more news on that as time goes on. Clouds. We talked about this already. We've seen some snippets. Everybody's excited. When is it happening? The wait is almost over, they say, and the new clouds for DCS World will be introduced in the first quarter of 2021. Huzzah! In addition to being visually stunning, the new clouds will block visual and optical sensor lines of sight and be synchronized online. We will initially release the new cloud system with an array of weather presets that will cater to most mission building scenarios. Later in the year, we will update the weather tool in the missions editor and will allow finer tuning controls of the clouds with a dynamic weather system based on more advanced meteorological engine information or engine functions. So that's kind of cool. I'm very excited about that. The clouds that WAGs put up the other day, of course, generated considerable excitement among the community. It's long overdue, and I must say they've done a nice job. Now, in addition to that, we've got new visual effects, which I think you'll also be very excited about. I am. Again, this is for in development stuff for 2021. We're talking here improved helicopter rotor wash over water and ground, missile flame and smoke, ground unit dust clouds, transonic shock cones. That will be cool. Be nice to pump up your F-14, get into supersonic, and see what that looks like. Fuel explosions, weapon water splash, further explosion improvements, and of course smoke grenades. And they hope to have many of these available in stages throughout the year, so stand by for that. Again, these visual improvements, like the clouds and other bits and pieces, just add to that immersive element of the game that makes it so cool, and very much welcome, so stay tuned for that. Dynamic campaign. We've long discussed this. This is a huge thing. It needs to be in the game, and it's coming. So this task has been underway for over 2 years, and the progress has been exciting. The campaign is built around a real-time strategy, or RTS, foundation that factors resources, zones of control, logistics, and available forces, and a strategic decision-making system. While we believe internal testing will continue in the first quarter of 2021, it is too early to estimate a release date. However, external beta testing is planned, hopefully in quarter 2 and quarter 3 of 2021. So I would imagine, if we're very lucky, we may see it this year, but more likely, I suspect, depending on how this interacts with all the other things that they're doing, we may not be seeing it this year. That's a guess. I could be being a little bit cynical, but I just have a feeling. But one thing that's going to help all that, of course, is this: Vulkan API and multi-threading. Now, this is also another topic that we have discussed ad nauseum and are desperate for, especially for those of us who have more mediocre systems. If you're not running a 20 series graphics card or one of the new 30 series NVIDIA based cards, or the new AMD cards, which you can't get, and I've just heard that apparently there's thanks to the Trump administration, I don't want to get political, but coincidentally they have slapped a tariff on Chinese-made goods, so any of the Chinese-made cards are going to have a 25% tariff attached to it as well. So the frickin' cards are going to be even more expensive. It's going to bump the prices up even more. So Vulkan API multi-threading is going to be helpful. And what they're saying here is the integration of these libraries will benefit, or DCS will benefit from improved performance throughout, including in virtual reality, which is good news for you VR people. This has been a substantial task to develop and integrate into our code base, but we are nearing the end of this journey and expect it to be available third quarter of this year. Whew. So a lot of stuff is happening this year, but hopefully it all comes to fruition. All right, we're wrapping up here. Damage modeling progress. At the end of last year, of course, the new damage model for World War II aircraft was released. Although some tuning remains, most of the work on this front in 2021 will focus on bringing the technology to modern aircraft like the Hornet, the F-16, the Viper, or the F-16 Viper, excuse me, and the AC-10C II tank killer. It's an ongoing process which we hope to deliver in stages during the latter half of 2021. So pretty exciting stuff. Air traffic control. I'm excited about this. This is really neat. Over the past year, the primary ATC focus has been on the SuperCarrier. Now that the SuperCarrier ATC system is nearing completion, we will next move on to airfield ATC radio communication. Given the scope of DCS World, this is not a simple task, and it will require 3 separate ATC systems: Western modern day, Eastern modern day, and of course World War II. Because this effort will require a large amount of new radio voiceovers, we will also like to take this opportunity to update the radio communications for other entities like flight members, other flights, AWACS, tankers, etc. Sounds like they need some voice actors, if there's any of you out there
who do voice work. This will continue to be developed in 2021, but we do not have an estimated release date. All right. FLIR, or however you want to say it. New and improved forward-looking infrared. In the modern battlefield, a realistic rendering of FLIR sensors is mandatory, not just for aircraft, but also for ground units, unmanned systems, and weapons sensor video. Given the need to create the underlying technology and then create thermal maps, real-world objects, terrain surfaces, and units, this has been quite a large task, and they're continuing to develop this well into 2021, and they hope to deploy this new FLIR enhancement to the game in Q3 of this year. So cool. AI units, there are some new and updated assets because DCS World is built on a project spanning almost 2 decades. I'm going to slurp some coffee here, which is cooled not in a good way. Some units now show their age and will be updated throughout the year. It is important that we add new units to better fit the battlefields that we're flying in or operating in. So here are some of the items that we intend to create or update in 2021. Large aircraft, the B-52H, the Tu-95MS, the Tu-142, the B-1B, cool, and the IL-38 and the Tu-160. Carrier aircraft, the S-3B and the SH-60B. Ground units include the M1A2, AMX-56 Leclerc, the Westbearders, the SD KFZ-124, the KS-19 100mm ADA Sun 4 flap wheel radar, C1 Ariete, I think it is, and the Pantsir SA-22 Greyhound, and the S300 SA-10 Grumble. So, cool. Enhanced AI behavior. This is something that many of you have argued that needs to be included. So they're gathering much of their AI engineering effort is they are currently working on AI engineering, and the effort is focused on the AI behavior in harmony with the new damage modeling and in line with logical and understandable rules and practices. Additionally, the new ATC and radio communications will demand a significant amount of AI engineering. This works, in other words, you don't have AI just doing whatever the heck they want when you're trying to land your aircraft and you're following the rules governed by ATC, and then the AI are doing their own thing. You can't have that. So this work is ongoing and probably never really will be finished because of the complexity, I would imagine, but we do hope to deliver substantial enhancements during the latter half of 2021. Now, they've taken the liberty of limiting the overview to issues which have officially been announced. Rest assured, many secret and exciting developments to the DCS core are ongoing and will be revealed in the fullness of time. In addition to our internal development, rest assured our brilliant third parties are hard at work at bringing you some wonderful modules in 2021, and we look forward to hearing from them very soon. Yes, so no word from third party developers this week specifically, just because the newsletter is so long and detailed, and I don't want to make it any longer than I need to. But again, onwards and upwards, as they have ended the newsletter with this week, and I think we've got some cool stuff coming together. So let me know what you think. What are you excited about? Is there something missing that you were hoping for? Let me know what you're flying and what you're enjoying right now and what you're looking forward to in terms of these new modules. And I know a lot of you will be disappointed that the Mosquito isn't available yet, but we've got some cool stuff coming, and hopefully the clouds, flying that Mosquito in the clouds and flying any of the aircraft in the clouds right now with the new update, it's going to be very exciting. All right. We'll make that do. This is Prickly Hedgehog out for another week. Stay safe out there, everybody. Carry on flying, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.